Hi there, and after building my Lego Delorean time machine display way back on the 1st of January, I had so many comments with suggestions on how I could improve it. Today we're going to give it some upgrades, which are going to include 3D fire trails, a light up Twin Pines Mall sign, and a complete rework of the lighting of the Delorean. Now, back in December, when I planned out this display for the Lego Delorean, I had no idea that come January the 1st, the set would be so popular, it would pretty much sell out worldwide on that first day. And due to the immense popularity of the set, my video has also been incredibly popular. And so far, it's my highest viewed video of 2026. But on a slightly sad note, I presume due to its popularity, AliExpress has stolen my design and instructions, which I put on Rebrickable, and are selling them for vast sums of money. I've contacted the seller, explained that they've stolen my instructions. They replied, apologised and said they would take them down, and then did absolutely nothing and are still selling them. But anyway, enough about scummy practices of people on AliExpress. Let's give my display a really good upgrade. Now, if you watched my first video back at the beginning of January, you'll know the main goal was to achieve glowing and flickering fire trails coming out from the back of the Delorean. And thanks to some flicker effects string lights from Light My Bricks, I think I achieved the look which I was going for. Having never used any form of lighting kit before, I also used two tiny single LEDs from Light My Bricks to light up the headlights, and used two single red LEDs to light up the rear lights. But even though I wanted to do a little bit more, that was as far as I could go with my lighting capabilities at the time. However, a lot of people commented that it would look really good if I could light up the blue ribbons that run around the back of the Delorean. And I also got a lot of comments saying that in the original film, the Twin Pines Mall sign was also illuminated from the inside. So 7 weeks later, I think I've devised a way that we can light this up and also give it a sand blue back, because I was never quite happy with the white back that it had. And also since then, Light My Bricks have made this superb looking lighting kit for the Delorean, with the headlights, the rear lights, all the blue ribbons, and also the flux capacitor lit up inside. But the vast majority of comments that I got on the video were actually due to the fire trails. Now, people really loved the fact that they were lit up and flickering. However, the comments were completely divided between people who liked the way I did it with this smooth tile effect, and people who wanted them to have more of a 3D textured effect. So I've bought some different transparent orange parts, and after lighting up the Delorean and the Twin Pines Mall sign, we're going to make these a little bit less smooth. But just before we get going, a very quick shout out to all my channel members. Thank you so much for your support, it really is appreciated. I've had quite a few new members this week, mainly I think due to my announcement of my huge new upscaled snack bar project. So thank you to everyone who's a member of the channel. It really does help out buying the hundreds of parts I'm going to need for the snack bar. Also, thank you to the generosity of all those people who've given me super thanks and super chats this week. I totally understand becoming a channel member isn't for everyone, but all those super chats really do help out. And I've replied to every one of you with a personal thank you in the comment that you left. Now, if you're enjoying my videos and you'd like to help support the channel, just watching, liking and sharing really does help me with the YouTube algorithm and gets my videos out to more people. Or if you'd like to become a channel member and get your name on a book in my videos, you can click on the join button below or the link in the description. Or if you're buying anything from lego.com, also in the description below there's my affiliate link. It doesn't cost you anything more, but lego.com give me a very small commission on everything that people buy. So a huge thank you to everyone who supports the channel. But let's get going on those Delorean upgrades. So this video is going to be divided into 3 sections. Firstly, upgrading the lighting on the Delorean. Secondly, making a new illuminated Twin Pines Mall sign. And thirdly, upgrading those fire trails. And then lastly, right at the end, a surprise little upgrade for the number plate. So first thing to do, I've detached the Delorean's electrical connection from the base plate, and I'm going to remove the lights that I put in, and then we're going to crack open the Light My Bricks kit and see how that gets installed. So that's the Delorean back as Lego intended it. We just need to now open up the lighting kit and see what's inside. So inside we've got 2 bags of parts, and on the side of the packet there's a QR code to scan to get the instructions. Now, by the time this video goes live, this option for the instructions will actually be working. It says coming soon on the 20th of February, and that's to install the lighting kit as you go as you build the Delorean. But the instructions available to me today on the 18th of February is to install the lighting kit after you've built the Delorean. And that's perfect because I built it weeks ago. Now, this is the first Light My Bricks kit which I've ever installed myself. And I have to say my initial reaction is the instructions look really cool. On page 1 we've got a picture of what the finished product's going to look like. We've got a contents page, firstly how to get started, then our 2 bags of lights, and then the finished product. It's got a nice little crib sheet showing the different signs they're using in the instructions and what they mean. Another little crib sheet on how to handle the products. And the diagram, which I personally really like, is a little blueprint showing how all the components fit together. Then the instructions take you step by step going through taking the various parts off the model, so you're deconstructing it as we go, and then stops you when it's time to open the bag of lights, and then shows you how you start installing them. So I'm going to go through these. I'll stop periodically through as I go, and I can show you the steps as I've gone along as I install each light. And weirdly enough, that's exactly how I installed the red lights myself, so it'll be interesting to see if they did the lights, the front lights, in the same way that I did mine. So I'm going to get going on this, but I'll stop and show you the model after I've installed each light. So in bag one, I've got the 2 red LEDs for the rear lights. I've got a string of lights, which I presume is one side of the car's blue ribbons. I've got this little 6-port hub, which all the lights plug into. I've got a very clever little plate, which has got studs on both sides, which the hub can click onto and be held in place. And I've also got a 1x2 plate. But unlike regular plates, it doesn't have Lego on the studs, it has LMB for Light My Bricks. Now, I've done a little bit of electronics in my lifetime, however, I have never seen LEDs quite this tiny before. They are absolutely minute, and also with these flat ribbon cables, it means you can just stick them on top of a stud and squash the 2 bricks together, and you hardly notice them in there. So with the Delorean upside down here, that's the 2 back lights in place, and they've routed their cables much better than I did. I went up and over through the back into the cockpit here. What they've done it, put them behind the rear bumper, so they've popped out underneath this plate here, so they're sticking out the front here, and they've put that double-sided 1x6 plate here, so I imagine that little sort of distribution board is going to sit here underneath the Delorean and be completely hidden away. But next step is the first set of lights underneath the blue ribbons. And I was completely wrong. I was presuming that this string of lights was for one side, but it's not. This is a string which starts on one side, goes all the way up and over the back, and ends up on the other side. So I presume the other string is for the front of the car. So this string starts here behind the rear wheel, goes up, along, up and over, and ends up in the same place on the other side. But with that little distribution board now fitted in underneath here, we've got one rear brake light on this side, and then one on the other side, and then the flux ribbon in the middle. And I've put a quick extension cable on, just so you can have a quick preview. And if we plug that in, give me 1 second, hopefully we'll see how amazing it really does look. So that's bag 1 complete, on to bag 2. And in bag 2, I've got a string of lights to go around the flux ribbon at the front of the car. I've got a small LED to go inside the flux capacitor. I've got 2 larger LEDs for the front headlights, and then a little extension cable which plugs into the USB connector. And the first light we're doing from bag 2 is the one for the flux capacitor. And Lego really did know what they were doing when they made this. They could have printed this on a brick. However, they put it on a transparent window piece, so they fully well knew that an awful lot of people would be putting a light behind this to make it flicker. And as a smaller side, absolutely nothing to do with Lego, I happen to have a life-size flux capacitor on the wall of our dining room. And that's the flux capacitor light installed, and you can see it flickering away. And unlike my bodge attempt of my 2 headlights, where I had all that spare wire coiled up inside the cockpit of the car, to hide these wires we're taking most of the front of the car apart so we can hide them down underneath. And with all the parts on the front end reinstated, I have to say this does look really awesome. We've got 2 glowing tail lights at the back, the flux ribbon on the back, which has got 6 LEDs, 1 starting here, 2 in the middle, 3, 4, 5 and 6. We've got the flux capacitor fluxing away on the inside. And then on the front of the car, we've got those lovely warm white LEDs in the headlights. And then we've got 6 LEDs in the flux ribbon. We've got 2 on this side, 1, 2 in the middle, and then 2 more on the other side. All the cabling is neatly stashed away underneath, and then the last LED had a slightly longer cable than the others, and that meant we could run it backwards and forwards between these 2 black hoses on each side, and that holds everything down. And where we installed that distribution board at the back, just behind the back axle, it meant we had 2 plates left over, a 1x6 dark blue and a 2x4 light grey, and they just came out where we put this one in. So as well as our fire trails, we've now got the Delorean lit up. Next we need to work on that Twin Pines Mall sign. Now our new Twin Pines Mall sign starts off exactly the same as our original one did, and if you want to see the details of how I built that, you can always go pop back and have a look at part 1, and I'll put a link to part 1 in the description below. Now in the original version, the middle part was solid white, and then we stuck those stickers on the front to give us the text and the clock underneath, and we had a thin strip of black plates which ran behind the clock and behind the 2 trees. But because we want the new sign to be hollow so that we can put LEDs inside, I'm going to build a solid wall at the back, and then we're going to put some panels at the front. So the back wall is just a row of 1x4s running along there, and then on top of that a 1x6, a 1x4 and another 1x6. Now you can see on the original it was 2 bricks and a plate high in the middle here, but because the panels I'm using on the new sign are only 2 bricks high, we've shortened the height by 1 plate. So starting from this side, we're going to add in 4 of those clear panels, and they're just going to click in place quite easily. However, we do have 1 more space before we hit the Twin Pines Mall trees, and so for that I'm using 2 1x1 transparent bricks. We're just going to add them in on the end. And then for the first pine tree, we've got a 1x2 plate, a 1x2 bracket, another 1x2 plate, and then this 1x2 snot brick. And that goes just there. And then the one stud gap between the two of them, I'm going to add another clear brick. And we've got exactly the same structure. And then lastly, one more transparent panel. On each end, I've got a 1x2 brick and two of these arch pieces. So they just click on each end like that. But before we add some plates and the tiles on the roof to give it that lovely smooth effect, this is where I'm going to try and install some lights to make the sign glow. And that's where I'm going to take apart all that spaghetti I had curled up inside the Delorean when I did my own lights, which incidentally made my version absolutely impossible to sit Doc or Marty inside. Now, because I want this sign to glow rather than it look like it's just got some spotlights inside of it, I found out that, like my bricks, do these panels with a little diffuser on the front of it. So when you plug this in, you get more of a spread of light rather than a pinpoint of light. The only trouble is they are ever so slightly too thick to fit behind a Lego panel, and that's why I'm having to use just a few LEDs spread out behind the panels. So I've installed 4 of these tiny warm white LEDs. I've got 3 down this end and then 1 down the other end. And those cables are just being sandwiched between the back wall and the plates. I'm going to smooth that off with tiles, and then hopefully when the stickers are applied to here, that's going to give us enough of a diffused effect so it won't look like pinpoints of light. Hopefully that'll spread it around a little bit. And when it's turned on, the whole thing glows really nicely, and we're just going to need to wait and see what it looks like when we've got the sticker in front. Now, on the original sign, because it had white bricks and black bricks underneath, I had 2 separate stickers. I had this white one at the top, you can see, and then the black one, the same width as the 2 black plates. Whereas the new sticker, it's all one piece. I'm going to cut that out and stick it onto the transparent panels, so it'll be just one piece all the way along. And hopefully the white paper of the sticker will diffuse those lights and give it a nice glow. So that's initially what it looks like with the sticker stuck on. We need to trim it down so that we've only got the sticker where the clear panel is. Now, because we've lost a plate in height, I did have to reorganise that column of bricks. So the bracket's gone down to the bottom. I had a plate underneath before, so that plate has gone from underneath it to on top of it. So that does mean on the new sign, the pine trees do sit ever so slightly lower than the original one. So the sticker's gone on in 3 parts, either side of those 2 columns. We've got a large one here, a tiny slither in the middle, and then one on the other end. I have actually made this one slightly too high. You can see the white gap there is a lot bigger than this end, so we can adjust that at a later date. But this is what it looks like when it's lit up. So I have adjusted the LEDs. I've got 1 behind the panel at this end. I've got 1 in that column of 2 bricks in the middle, and I've got 2 down this end with that whole row of panels. It would be nice if I had more LEDs. I could put 1 in this column here and 1 in each of the other 2 panels, but I only had 4, so I had to spread them out as much as I could, and I didn't have 1 in the middle here, and it just looked black when the rest of it was illuminated. So I had to put 1 here, and then we had 2 left for the larger panel at the end. So the spread of light isn't as even as I'd like it to be, but I have achieved the objective of lighting up the Twin Pines Mall sign. So now we've got our 3 elements all lit up. We've got our original fire trails, we've got that fantastic new lighting kit on the DeLorean, and we've got an illuminated Twin Pines Mall sign. So the last thing to do today, to keep everyone happy who requested it, we're going to make our smooth fire trails a little bit more 3D. Now, several people commented in the last video that they wanted me to use the actual Lego flame pieces here, and I've rejected that idea for 2 reasons. Firstly, I think they would be a little bit too tall, but secondly, I also need something for them to clip into, and there's nothing in a transparent orange colour which they could clip into. I still want them to be obviously transparent, then the light would still be able to shine through. If they weren't transparent, we'd get breaks in the light, and I don't think it would look as good. So before I was completely using 1x4 transparent tiles, and what I've done now, I've got a small handful of 1x2s, a giant bag of 1x2 plates, but also a large bag of cheese slopes. And again, if you didn't see part 1, I'd recommend you go back and have a look at it and how I made all this, but these pieces are just a 2x4 tile and a 1x4 transparent tile with these boat studs on underneath. So that sits on there, and then this row of tiles here support the boat studs and means they can't get pushed down into the bottom of the display base. Now, fire is obviously natural, so you wouldn't get a uniform effect. So what I'm going to do is use just a mixture of the cheese slopes and the plates and the tiles and mix them all up, and then get a random effect running along both lines. So this is what I'm suggesting. This one, I've got a cheese slope, a tile, and a cheese slope pointing the other direction. then here a plate, and 2 cheese loops pointing in different directions. So I'm going to try and make it look as random as possible with no repeating patterns, and I'm going to run that down the entire length of both fire trails. And when finished, it looks like this. Now, I didn't think I was going to like this suggestion. I really liked the smooth look that we had on the first version, but I thought I'd go for it as so many people suggested it, and actually I'm coming around to it. I do quite like this. Initially, when I started building it, it looked a little bit more like lava than fire trails, and with the random effect applied the full length of the fire trails, I think that looks pretty good. So if you're one of the people who suggested 3D over smooth tiles, thank you very much. And here is our finished diorama. We've got upgrades to the sign, upgrades to the car, and upgrades to the fire trails. But I did say we were going to have one last final surprise upgrade to the number plate. And for that, we're going to use a 2x2 jumper plate. We're going to use one of the minifigure action jump pieces in transparent, and of course, that number plate. And we've got the part of the scene where the number plate spins off the back of the DeLorean when Einstein is sent 1 minute into the future. Now, if you're watching this video on the day of release on Friday the 20th, tomorrow, Saturday the 21st, I'm going to be at the Guildford National Brick event. And the DeLorean display will be making its first outing to a LEGO show. I'll also be taking all my recent upscaled projects, plus of course all my classic spacemen. So if you're anywhere near Guildford, come along to the National Brick event and say hi. I'd love you to let me know what you think of this in the comments below. If you've liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up, or you could consider becoming a channel member or using my affiliate link when buying from lego.com. But above everything else, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe for more LEGO videos.